The Pathless Profession by Henry Van Dyke. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. From Campfires and Guideposts, a book of essays and excursions by Henry Van Dyke. The Pathless Profession. It is a curious fact that there is no good guidebook to authorship. There are a few self-portraits, more or less convincing, of authors at work. There are many essays, more or less illuminating, upon the craft of writing in general, and upon the habits and procedure of certain great writers in particular. The best of these confessions and criticisms are excellent reading, full of entertainment and instruction for the alert and candid mind in every age and calling, and touched with a special, sympathetic interest for those young persons who have sternly resolved, or fondly dreamed, that they will follow a literary career. A volume of carefully selected material of this kind might be made attractive and rewarding to readers who are also intending authors. But the one thing for which such a book ought not to be taken or mistaken is a manual of the profession of literature. The reasons for this appear to me quite as remarkable as the fact itself. The business of authors being to write, why should we not be able to gather from them such instruction in regard to writing and the necessary preparation for it, as would make the pathway of authorship so plain that the wayfaring man, though a fool, need not err therein? The answer to this question is an open secret, an instructive paradox. There is no pathway of authorship. It is a voyage, if you like, but there are no guideposts in the sea. It is a flight, if you like, but there are no tracks in the air. It is certainly not a journey along a railway line, or a high road, or even a well-marked trail. In this it differs from other vocations like the church, the bar, the army, the navy, engineering, medicine, or teaching. For each of these there is a pretty clearly defined path of preparatory study, with fixed gateways of examination along its course. When the last gate is passed and the young doctor is licensed to practice, the young clergyman ordained to preach, the young lawyer admitted to the bar, the path broadens into a road which leads from one professional duty to another and brings him from task to task, if he is fortunate and industrious, with the regularity of a timetable, and it must be added with something of the monotony of a clock. It is not so with the young intending author. There is no time of preparation prescribed, or even authoritatively advised, for him or her. There are no fierce examiners standing like lions in the way. No hard-earned diploma or certificate or license is demanded. There are no set duties to be performed at certain times, like a case to be argued at the first session of the court in November, or an appendix to be removed next Thursday afternoon, or 2 sermons to be preached every Sunday. Intending authors, and for that matter, practicing authors, are like Milton's Adam and Eve when the closed gate of paradise was behind them. The world was all before them where to choose. It looks very free and easy and attractive, this vocation of making books. All that the young writer has to do is to provide himself or herself with paper and a pen or a typewriter, retire into a convenient room, almost any kind of a room will answer the purpose, and emerge with a book which a publisher will print, advertise, and sell, and which the public will read. And after that, why, after that it looks freer and easier still. All that the successful writer has to do is to repeat the process with a new book at any convenient season. But this very freedom, so alluring at a distance, becomes bewildering and troublesome at close range. The young intending author who has a serious ambition and a mind in thinking order very soon recognizes, either by the light of pure reason or by the glimmer of sad experience, that there are difficulties in this simple business of writing books, which publishers will desire to print and the public to read. Many manuscripts are offered, but few are chosen. How does one learn to cope with these difficulties and overcome them? How does one make ready to produce a manuscript which shall be reasonably sure of a place among the chosen few? By going to college, or by travel? By living in solitude or in society? By imitating select models, or by cultivating a strenuous originality? By reading Plato or the Literary Digest? Nobody seems to know the right answer to these questions. Guesses are made at them. Universities announce courses in daily theme writing. Schools of correspondence offer to teach the secrets of literature. Bureaus of authorship are advertised. But the results produced by these various institutions are not consistent enough to be regarded as inevitable. Travel does not guarantee an observing mind, nor solitude a profound one, nor does society always refine the intelligence. The strenuous effort to be original often ends in a very common type of folly. Conscious imitation may be the sincerest flattery, but it rarely produces the closest resemblance. Meantime, a sufficient number of authors, great and small, continue to arrive, as they always have arrived, from their native regions, by their own ways. Ask them how they got there, and they cannot tell you, even when they try to do so. The reason is because they do not know. There was no pathway. They traveled as they could. Power and skill came to them, sometimes suddenly, sometimes slowly, always inexplicably. Do you suppose it is possible to explain how Shakespeare became able to write Hamlet, or Milton to compose Paradise Lost? It is true that George Eliot describes how she came to write fiction, and Stevenson gives an entertaining sketch of some of the methods in which he pursued his own private end, which was to learn to write. But does George Eliot herself understand the secret of her preparation to create her vivid, revealing scenes from clerical life? Or will the study of those favorite authors to whom Stevenson says he played the sedulous ape enable the young short story tellers really to reproduce his inimitable style? In the middle of the 19th century, several learned, industrious, and wise Americans were delivering lectures. Why did Emerson's crystallize into essays? Where did Hawthorne learn how to write the Scarlet Letter? In Bowdoin College or in the Salem Custom House? Could Thackeray have told you how he found the way from The Luck of Barry Lyndon to Vanity Fair, or Dickens from Sketches by Boz to Pickwick Papers? There is no other vocation of man into which the unknown quantity enters as largely as it does into authorship, and almost all writers who have won fame, even in a modest degree, if they are thoroughly candid, will confess to a not unpleasant experience of surprise at their own success. Now, all this implies an element of uncertainty in the author's profession, if indeed a vocation so pathless may be called a profession at all. In the regular and, so to speak, macadamized professions, those who follow the road with energy, fidelity, and fair intelligence may count upon a reasonable reward. But in the open field of literature, it is impossible to foretell which one of 1,000 aspirants will come to fame, or which 10 will be able to earn a living. It is for this reason, no doubt, that some instinct of prudence or some pressure of necessity has made many authors provide themselves with another breadwinner than the pen. When we consider how many well-known and even famous writers, from Chaucer to Conan Doyle, have had some avocation besides writing, we may justly conclude that there is hardly any human occupation, from diplomacy to doctoring, in which the intending author may not learn to write, and from which genius, or even talent, may not find a passage into literature. Charles Lamb's labor as a clerk in the East India House did not dim the luminous wit of his essays. William de Morgan's long life as a manufacturer of tiles did not prevent him at last from making his novels somehow good. The career of James Ford Rhodes as an ironmaster was no bar to his notable success as a historian. Indeed, it almost seems as if some useful occupation, or at least some favorite recreation or pursuit, to bring the writer into unprofessional contact with the realities of life and the personalities of other men, may be more of a help than a hindrance to vital authorship. Writing in itself is not an especially interesting or picturesque employment. Romance can make little of it. Even when the hero of a novel is a literary person, like Arthur Pendennis or David Copperfield, the things that interest us most happen to him outside of the book room. It is what lies behind writing, and leads up to it, and flows into it, that really counts. The biography of an author is almost interrupted when he takes his pen in hand. Who would not ride with Scott on a summer raid through the Highlands, or walk with him and his dogs beside the Tweed, rather than watch him at work in the little room where he wrote Waverley by candlelight? I think it was Byron who said something like this: "The moment in which a poem is conceived is one of infinite pleasure. The hours in which it is brought forth are full of the pains of labor." Of course, I do not mean to deny that the author's vocation has its own inward delight and its own exceeding great reward. The delight lies in the conception of something that craves utterance, and the reward lies in the production of something that goes out alive into the world. A true call to the vocation of literature is both inward and outward, a strong desire of self-expression, and a proved power of communicating thought and feeling through the written word. The wish to write merely for the sake of being a writer, if I may so describe a vague ambition which vexes many young persons, is rather a small and futile thing, and seldom leads to happiness, usefulness, or greatness. Literature has been made by men and women who became writers because they had something to say and took the necessary pains to learn how to say it. But how did this happen to these men and women? What brought them to this happy pass where the inward call to self-expression was confirmed by the outward power to interest readers? Who can tell? It looks simple, and no doubt there is a certain element of simplicity in the necessary processes of learning to spell, to construct sentences, to use words correctly, to develop plots, to recognize rhymes, and to observe meters. But there is a mystery in it after all. From Shakespeare's deepest tragedy to Kipling's most rattling ditty, from Wordsworth's loftiest ode to Dobson's lightest lyric, from Victor Hugo's biggest romance to de Maupassant's briefest tale, from Plato's profoundest dialogue to Chesterton's most paradoxical monologue, from George Eliot's Romola to Miss Alcott's Little Women, every bit of literature, great or small, has a measure of magic in it, and ultimately is no more explicable than life itself. End of The Pathless Profession by Henry Van Dyke. Read by Bill Mosley, Frelsburg, Texas, USA.